So this is the review key for learning target 6, polynomial graphs. First thing we're going to do is use the rational zero theorem to list our possible zeros. So start off with C and A. C is 24, and A, which is the leading coefficient, or the number in front of our first term, is 1. So it's C divided by A, and so our list is just plus or minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, and 24, all the factors of 24. For number 2, we're going to have C is 32, and A is 2. So write out your factors of C, which will be plus or minus 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, and 32, and those will be divided by plus or minus 1 and 2. So then write out your list. We'll have plus or minus 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, and 32. And then we'll also have plus or minus 1/2. For number 3, we've got negative 12 for C and 3 for A. So that gives us plus or minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. That'll be divided by plus or minus 1 and 3. And then our list will be plus or minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. And then we'll also have 1/3, 2/3, and 4/3. So it's all of the factors of C divided by each of the factors of A, and then you can leave out the ones that repeat. Number 4, we've got 30 for C, and we've got 5 for A. So that's going to be plus or minus 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6, 10, 15, and 30, all over plus or minus 1 and 5. And then our list is going to be plus or minus 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, and 30. And then we've got 1/5, 2/5, and 3/5. And then our last one is 6/5. 10 over 5, 15 over 5, and 30 over 5 are all listed in the previous numbers. Next, we're going to list out our possible zeros and then use those to find our actual zeros. You can do that with substitution by plugging them in and seeing if it comes out to 0, or you can do synthetic division. In these examples, we're going to do synthetic division. So we've got plus or minus 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, and 30, all divided by plus or minus 1 and 2, so that adds 1/2, 3/2, 5/2, and 15/2. So those are our possible zeros. Now we're going to try one of those. We'll start off with 1. Coefficients of our polynomial are 2, -9. Don't forget 0 is a placeholder for x squared, 37, and -30. Bring down your 2 to start, so then 1 times 2 goes in the next column. -9 plus 2 is -7. 1 times -7 is -7. Add those together. Continue that, and we get 30 at the end. That gives us 0 for a remainder, so we know that x equals 1 is one of our zeros. That leaves us with 2, -7, -7, and 30 as our coefficients. Now we're going to try -2. If you try one that doesn't work, keep trying until you find one that does. Bring down your 2, multiply. We're going to add negative 2 times negative 11 is 22. 22 minus 7 is 15. Negative 2 times 15 is negative 30. So we know that x equals negative 2 works. Now we can factor. So 2x squared minus 11x plus 15. Multiply your a and your c. Factors of 30 that give us negative 11 are negative 6 and negative 5. Write your a term there, 2x over negative 6 and 2x over negative 5. So our factors become x minus 3, 2x minus 5. We're going to set those equal to 0 and solve. So that gives us x equals 3 and x equals 5 over 2. And then we had our previous ones, x equals 1, x equals negative 2, I forgot the negative sign there, and we should have 3 and then 5 halves. So make sure your 2 there is negative. For number 6, we've got plus or minus 5 and plus or minus 1. So we're going to start off with 1. Write your coefficients, 1, 1, negative 5, and negative 5. Bring down the 1, 1 times 1, add those together. And so here we see that 1 doesn't work since we get a remainder of negative 8. So now we're going to try negative 1 instead. Bring down your 1. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. Negative 1 times 0 is 0. Negative 5 times negative 1 is 5, so there we get a remainder of 0. So now we know that x equals negative 1. We're left with x squared minus 5. Since you can't factor that, we're going to set that equal to 0 and solve with the square root method. Add 5 to both sides. X squared equals positive 5. Take the square root of both sides. And so x equals plus or minus the square root of 5. That gives us x equals negative 1 and x equals positive and negative square root of 5. Now we're going to graph. These are in factored form. So the first thing, you notice that there's a x squared. That tells you that there's going to be a bounce there. So where x is 0, it's going to bounce. Our degree, count the x's, so there's x squared is 2x's, plus 3 more is 5. Leading coefficient is negative 1. So then set each of your factors to 0. X squared will be 0, and then 2, negative 2, and 5 for our zeros. Plot those on your graph. We've got an odd degree, and it is negative with a leading coefficient. So that means that the arrows are going to go up to the left and down to the right. So the left side goes up, the right side goes down. The degree equals the maximum number of x-intercepts, so that's 5, and the maximum number of turning points is 1 less than that. So I marked on the graph that to the left it's going to go up, to the right it's going to go down. Now we're going to pick some of our x values for the turning points, so negative 1, 1, and we'll use 3. So those are just the values in between our intercepts. We're going to plug in negative 1 for x. And we've got negative 1 squared minus 1. That gives us negative 18. We'll plug in positive 1, so that's negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1 times 3 is positive 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. So now when x is negative 1, y is negative 18. When x is 1, y is negative 12. We're going to plug 3 in there. And that is going to give us negative 9 times 1 times 5 times negative 2. So that's going to be positive 90. Since that goes way off the graph, we'll just put it up there. And so now, remember it's going up to the left and down to the right. So it bounces at 0, back down to negative 12, up through 2, all the way up to 90, and then back down through 5. So make sure we get that bounce here where x squared happens, where x is 0. Moving on to number 8. So we've got a positive leading coefficient. We've got two terms now that are squared, so we're going to have two bounces. We've got two x's and two x's, so that's 4. Leading coefficient is 2, so now that gives us an even degree with a positive leading coefficient. We're going to have zeros at positive 1 and positive 5. Go ahead and plot those. Since our degree is even and our coefficient is positive, it's going to go up to the left and up to the right. Maximum number of intercepts equals the degree, so that's 4, and then turning points is 1 less than that. The actual intercepts, though, are 2 because we have the two bounces, so we're going to take 3. Since that's in between 1 and 5, we're going to plug that in for our turning point. 2 times 3 minus 1 squared times 3 minus 5 squared is 2 times 2 squared times negative 2 squared. So when you calculate all of that out, you end up with 32. So when x is 3, y is 32. We'll put that off the graph. The graph's going to go up to the left and up to the right. So it's going to go down, it's going to bounce, go up to 32, back down, hit 5, and bounce up. You only count them when it's in factored form, but we are going to factor them here. But the degree here is 3. The leading coefficient is negative 2. To find our zeros, we're going to factor. So always start off with looking to see if there's a greatest common factor. You can take out negative 2x, which leaves x squared minus 9x plus 18. And so now we're looking to see what multiplies to give us 18 that adds to give us negative 9. That's going to be negative 3 and negative 6. So we're going to factor that to x minus 6, x minus 3. And we've still got our negative 2x out there in front. Set each of those to 0. So our zeros are going to be 0, positive 6, and positive 3. Go ahead and plot those. So if we look now, you've got 1 and 2 in between there, 4 and 5 in between there. We'll use those for the turning points. since our degree is odd and our coefficient is negative, it's going to go up to the left and down to the right. Maximum number of intercepts, 3, and turning points is 1 less than that. I'm going to use 1 and 4 as my turning points, so we're going to plug those in. Negative 2 times 1, 1 minus 6, 1 minus 3. So that gives us negative 2 times negative 5 times negative 2, which is 20, negative 20. We'll put that off the graph there. Plug 4 in there, so negative 2 times 4. We'll have negative 8 times negative 2 times positive 1. That's going to give us 16. So that'll be up above off the graph. Since we're going up to the left and down to the right, we don't have any bounces, so it's going to go down through 1. It's going to hit negative 20, go back up through 3 to 16, and back down through 6. And our final problem, we've got x to the 4th minus 10x squared plus 9. We're going to factor this. So x to the 4th splits up into x squared and x squared. Positive 9 becomes negative 9 times negative 1 to give positive 9. Negative 9 plus negative 1 gives us negative 10. Since both of these factors are the difference of squares, we can factor that into x minus 3 times x plus 3, x minus 1 times x plus 1. So now we've got 4 factors. Our degree is 4. Our leading coefficient is positive 1. Write your zeros in. We're going to have positive 3, negative 3, positive 1, and negative 1. This is even since our degree is 4, with a leading coefficient that's positive, so it's going to go up to the left and up to the right. Maximum number of intercepts will equal the degree, so that's 4. 1 less for the turning point, so that's 3. If we look here, we've got negative 2, 0, and 2 in between our x-intercepts, so we're going to use those as our turning points. Negative 2 minus 3, negative 2 plus 3, negative 2 minus 1, negative 2 plus 1. So it'll be negative 5 times 1 times negative 3 times negative 1. And so that is negative 15. When we plug 0 in there, 0 minus 3, 0 plus 3, 0 minus 1, 0 plus 1. So we're going to have positive 9. And then when we plug positive 2 back in there, we should get negative 15 also. So 2 minus 3, 2 plus 3, 2 minus 1, and 2 plus 1. We don't have any bounces here, so it's going to go up to the left and up to the right, which means it's going to go through negative 3 down to 15, negative 15, back up through 1 all the way up to 9, back down through 1, and then back up through 3. So that is the review. If you have any questions, email me. The answer key is online at my website, bodine.bhsmath.net. You can find all the other worksheets and notes and answer keys there as well.